But first, a teenager with attention deficit disorder was having trouble in school. So his mother signed him up for an experimental treatment. But imagine the boy's horror when he found out that in order to get better, he'd just have to play some video games.
For 14-year-old Jordan, going to school every day is more of a challenge than just learning lessons. Like 2 million other American children, he's been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD.
Jordan had been on medications and been through all kinds of psychotherapies, and it was getting very difficult for us. So I used to get calls from the school almost on a weekly basis. Jordan's misbehaving in class, he's not paying attention.
But thanks to a strategy originally devised for NASA pilots, Jordan's starting a new chapter in his life.
He started receiving notes on his report cards after the study that said that he was paying a lot more attention, he was doing great in class, and his teachers used to come up to me and tell me how much better he was doing.
Jordan got better by skateboarding, dirt biking, and racing sports cars, all on a unique video game that's designed to train the user's mind. The real world can be overwhelming to kids with ADHD. Caught in a private whirl of sights and sounds, they're easily distracted and have trouble keeping their attention on one task. Stimulants like Ritalin can help, but leave many kids feeling anxious and jittery. Some parents have turned to biofeedback, an alternative treatment introduced in the 1970s.
Biofeedback is essentially a method to show you what is going on in your body so that you can learn to control it voluntarily. Brainwave biofeedback is one type of biofeedback. It teaches you to control your brainwave activity, to amplify certain brainwave frequencies and suppress others, and that changes the functioning of the brain in a more healthful way.
Everyone's brain generates electrical waves that repeat from 1 to 40 times each second. People who are concentrating create more frequent waves than people who aren't. In traditional methods of teaching biofeedback, the patient watched his own brain waves being displayed on a monitor and then focused on speeding them up. But several obstacles have kept this therapy away from kids with ADHD.
Previous biofeedback methods used graphs and charts and displays that were rather bland to present information about what's going on in the body to the patient or child that's using it. We found that it's very difficult to keep a child especially interested in that form of biofeedback over the some 40 sessions of training that's needed to get an effect.
Those 40 sessions of clinical training cost between $2,000 and $5,000. Expenses aside, the treatment faces a final obstacle: mainstream acceptance. While critics allege biofeedback hasn't been scrutinized in scientific studies, its supporters point to athletes, musicians, and even astronauts who have used the method to improve performance. Dr. Alan Pope hit on the video game idea by working with NASA pilots and flight simulators.
Left heading 050, maintain 3005, Papa Charlie.
What we've done with brainwave technology at NASA is to try to determine, using brainwave measurements, how attentive, how bored, or how engaged or disengaged pilots are in the flight deck. We use flight simulators for this, and what we're concerned about is that with increasing automation, there's sometimes less for the pilots to do, and they do become bored and disengaged from what's going on. We want to know how much automation is too much and causes boredom.
Clinical psychologist Oliver Powson has been conducting a study with Pope's invention. 11 children with ADHD are receiving traditional brainwave biofeedback, and 11 are using the video game method. At the start of each training session, special EEG sensors are attached to the patient's scalp. The sensors pick up brain waves which are relayed to the video game's controller.
The video game's difficulty, the video game's responsiveness to their inputs is adjusted according to what they're producing in brainwaves. As they produce brainwaves that indicate more attention and more engagement in what's going on, the video game becomes easier. The controller that they're operating becomes more responsive.
When children produce the most desirable brainwaves, the skateboarder in the game speeds up, encouraging them to keep concentrating. Although a few researchers experimented with video games in the early 90s, the basic screen displays didn't command rapt attention. Custom-written games for ADD patients also prove to be expensive. Pope's controller can be plugged into popular off-the-shelf game systems so that kids can train with a new game whenever they need a change. Palson compares this training to lifting weights in a gym.
What we're doing is we're creating an actual physical change in the way the brain functions, and that change will change the way you think no matter where you are and what you're doing.
After his biofeedback training, Jordan began behaving better in school. He recently brought home a perfect report card, straight A's.
He's doing great in school. He's always on a roll now, and I'm not getting the school calls anymore, and I'm liking life a lot better now.
Whether using traditional biofeedback or the new video game, all of the children studied made significant gains. They improved both their behavior and their ability to pay attention. But the kids who used video games were far more eager to show up at the clinic.
The children are very enthusiastic about the treatment, and some of them have been very disappointed to miss sessions. So here we have a method that is appealing enough for the children to want to continue spontaneously to do this type of training.
Several companies are now negotiating with NASA, hoping to license the technology for home use. It may not be long until children with ADHD are told to study hard, get plenty of sleep, and play their video games.